there, friends. Welcome to the first edition of John's Acrylic Moment. I'm so happy to have you all here with me today to explore your creativity and put some paint on a canvas with me here today. So to get started, we're just going to go over some of our basic materials that you're going to need today that you should have already studied up on the Facebook post here. So we've got some paint colors here. Let's see what we got. Today we're going to want just some plain old black acrylic paint. Now you can find this paint at Walmart, Hobby Lobby, any of your crafting stores. Walmart sells it as cheap as 50 cents if you're broke like me, so that's always a good choice. We got some dark red, normal red. This one's called Cardinal Crimson, but you can choose whichever one makes you feel better. We've got some dark blue, navy blue, also called Admiral Blue, according to the labeling company. We've got some dark purple here, Royal Violet, some light yellow called Daybreak, and then we've just got some plain old white paint, also known as titanium white. I got me a little backup jar here just in case because we're going to be using a good bit of it today. Alrighty, so this here's a 18 by 24 canvas we'll be painting on today. This here's an easel, holds your canvas, but you can put your painting on a table if you like. Make sure to lay some newspaper down. I got some newspaper under me for all of my accidents that I will most likely have today. And I've got me a paper plate with my paint on it. Got a water bucket here to dry my paintbrushes off and some paper towels to dry those paintbrushes off so we can use them a few times more than not. So first I'm going to pick up a paintbrush. This here is about a 2-inch paintbrush, but you can use whichever paintbrush you like. Bigger's better for a bigger canvas, but whatever floats your boat, whatever paintbrush you got. I'm not going to discriminate. So we're just going to start off here with a little bit of black paint. We're going to load that paintbrush up nice and full. Just like that. That's my paintbrush there, nice and loaded. So we're going to start here in the middle, right up here in the top. We're just going to start with some light brush strokes back and forth. Now you can be as generous as you want with this stuff. With this painting that we're doing today, you're going to want to be a little more generous than not. Make sure you get a nice coat of paint on there, nice and thick. Keep it a little shiny. Yeah, just like that. Got our left side covered a good bit. Going to cover this corner here. Just taper it off right there at the end. Then we're going to keep loading our paintbrush up. And we're going to come over here to the right side. Show him a little bit of love. Yeah, that's nice. You want to make sure to keep the edges as dark as possible. That's going to be where you want the most of your black paint. And as you come inside, you can thin it out a little bit, but just remember to be generous. Give it a nice clean coat. Come back over here to the left side. Help him out a little bit. Make him feel included. We're going to come down here on the edge just a little bit. Plenty of paint. We're going to come down here. Not as much as up top, but we just want a nice, healthy coat of some black paint down here on the edge. We're going to do the same thing here over here on the right side. And it doesn't have to be as completely even as the other side. It can be a little different. That's just how nature goes. Nothing's ever the exact same. And that's the beauty of it. So we're going to bring a little more black paint here on the bottom. Nice and thick. Just like that. Beautiful. Alrighty, I think we're about done with our black paint. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to get it a little wet. Don't have to get all that paint out, but don't want too much black. And then we're going to take some paper towels. Whatever tickles your fancy. I chose 3 squares, but you can do 2, you can do 4. You could even do 7 if you like. We're just going to dry that baby off. Get all the water. And you might get a little paint on yourself, but that just means you're a good painter. And you could even rub it on your shirt. This is a paint shirt. This is not a normal shirt I would wear in public. Unless I'm wanting to paint in public, then that would be the case. but there's no shame in getting some paint on you. Now I'm just going to take this bad boy and throw him right there so he's out of my way. Now, let's go get a little bit of navy blue. We're going to load that paintbrush up again. Nice and full. And we're going to come up here by our black, and we're not going to go right on top of the black, but we're just going to go along the edge, and what you see here start to happen is a nice blending, a nice mixing of colors, and that's what happens when you put that nice thick coat of black paint. Leaves a little bit there so it can mingle with this blue. And we're just going to come around the edges like so. And you can see right around here, it's a nice blend, and then as you come a little farther down, it's still blue, a little brighter blue, and that's just what we want. So we're going to come down here. Anywhere you see black paint, we're just going to add a little blue right there to the edge. Nice even strokes around here. Make sure to blend it real nice. Get a little more paint. Come down here and show the bottom just a little bit of love. Just like that. Now I'm just going to come across the bottom right here. Make it a little bit lighter, a little more dark blue than black on the bottom there. Just to add a little bit of flair. Make it a little bit different from the rest. Now I'm just going to keep coming in with some blue there. Thicken it up just a little bit so we have that nice pretty blue in some areas. Have a beautiful, beautiful blending of color right here. Just like that. I'm just going to take a little bit more blue and add some thicker edges around the edge there. Because if you can guess what's coming next, we're going to pick a new color and do the exact same technique. So now I'm going to go get a little bit of purple there. Not as much, just enough. Do the same thing. Still a little bit of blue in our paintbrush, and it's picking up a little bit from the edges there, but it's blending real nicely. Just like that. And if you noticed, I didn't wet my paintbrush and dry it off and start over again. And the reason I did that is because there was a little bit of blue left in there, and it adds for a nice middle color whenever you pick up some purple on your paintbrush, because you can see there's some purple right there on the edge, but underneath that purple is just a little bit of that blue we used earlier. So we're going to come around here, get that nice color. Not as much purple on that one. Now we're going to let's take a little bit of red, and we're going to come, same thing. Just right around that edge there. Nice and simple like. Keep blending. And if yours doesn't blend exactly like mine's doing, that's no problem. Everybody's got different techniques, different colors, different ways that we use paintbrushes, and there's nothing wrong with that. I bet your painting is going to be just as beautiful as mine. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a little bit more purple here, and I'm going to come back right in the middle, because there's just not quite as much purple as I was hoping there would be. There's a little bit more of a hint of purple. Get just a little bit more. Maybe bring it down here on the bottom. A little more than the top. Just a little different. Now if you're painting at home in your kitchen table, or if you got a fancy easel like I do, it's probably smart to put some newspaper up under you so that you don't drip paint all over your mom's fancy tile in her kitchen. Get yelled at. Nobody wants to get yelled at, so it's best to just throw some newspaper, some paper towels, old t-shirts, anything you like on that ground, just so you don't make a big old mess. Take a little bit more red there, get some brighter colors. That's nice. Yeah, that's nice. Just add a little bit of variation. Now, I like to just tap my paintbrush sometimes on a blank paper towel or a paper plate just to get all that extra paint out. But there's still a little bit hiding in there. So now what we're going to do, we're going to take just a hint of yellow, come around the edge here, just add that in, just like that. Add some brighter colors. Now right here I'm going to wet my paintbrush just a little bit because it's got some dark colors still hiding in there, and right here in the middle I don't want as much dark color, so I'm going to get some water in it. Knock all that excess, and I'm going to take some paper towels just like earlier. I think I got 4 that time. Like I said, you get as many as you want. I'm going to just dry her out. And look at there, just like new. You throw that bad boy on the ground. Get me a little bit more yellow. There. Now see, when you dry your paintbrush off, it allows that bright color to just come through so nicely, express itself just how it wants, without the influence of others. I'm going to come in here. Wow. This is just blending beautifully. I'm going to get me just a little bit more yellow here. Keep it bright right in the middle there. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my paintbrush just as it is, and I'm going to just lightly stroke around it. Just like that. Create that blending effect like we were talking about earlier. It's better to do big, long strokes like that, because when you do little short strokes, it leaves brush marks. So if you start big, finish big, just like that. Blends nice. So that you can't quite tell where one color starts and where one color ends. And even if you got some little brush strokes in there, that's just okay with me. Nobody's going to judge, because look, I got a couple right there, right in there. So now we've got the base layer of our painting done. So I'm going to take this paintbrush here, and I'm going to put him in the water just to soak for a little bit, dry himself out. And now we're going to take a little bit of our white paint, our titanium white. Now what I'm going to do here is a little bit different. If you got a painting sponge like I asked for, you can use something like this bad boy. Something like this guy. Looks like it came out of the ocean. And I've even got a little sponge like this. And if you're using a small canvas, this guy will probably help you out a little bit better than one of these big fellas. But since I got a bigger canvas, I'm going to use one of these guys. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to just give him a few test squeezes like that, make sure he's all spongy and such. And I'm going to put him in some white paint. Just like that. Got some nice paint there. What we're going to do is we're going to come right here to the middle, and we're just going to dab around just like that. Nice dabbing. Just like that. And what you'll see start to happen is some of these edges will start to blend with the white paint that you're dabbing around. And your sponge, if you take a dry end, will help to mix that white in so nicely like that. Looks like a real pretty cloud on a nice sunset day. So we're just going to keep dabbing around like that. Mix them in real nice like. Just like that. You can even bring them up a little bit right there. Maybe make a little plume of white. And then what we're going to do is we're going to try to mirror that a little bit down here on the end. Similar technique. Just come around the edges. I got a little bit of dark paint there on the end, so I'm going to rotate them just a little bit to include these lighter colors here on the inside. I'm going to get me a little bit more white paint. Come back in here in the middle. Now we want the middle to be whiter than the outsides. Don't want as much blend in there, but nice bright white right there in the middle. And if you can picture this canvas with a line right across here, we're going to act like that's a mirror sitting on the ground. So we're going to, whatever we do up top, we want to do something similar down bottom. And like I said earlier, it doesn't have to be exactly the same, just similar. Just enough to make your friends think that it's a mirror. So I got a little bit more white here. I'm gonna go a little bigger in the middle. How about that? Just like that. Maybe bring some little sponges off to the side here on that little line, that imaginary line right there. Like that. So now I'm going to take my dry end and I'm going to just blend it in real nicely. Just tap, 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 tap. Not too aggressive. Too aggressive, you'll knock your easel over, and then you'll ruin your painting and have to start over. Paint gets everywhere. Mama yells at you, and there's just no fun in that. We don't want any of that. This is a happy space with no yelling. No mamas getting mad about paint on the ground. We're just gonna keep dabbing around just like that. Might bring some white up in there a little bit. And I'm gonna just do the same right down here, just like so. That's nice. I'm gonna take a dry end with no color on it and just kind of go in the middle. Get out some of these big spots. But if you got some of those big spots, no worries. No need to get discouraged or think that this looks funny. We're just going to keep dabbing around just like that. Now, that looks nice. So now you can take this sponge, you can set them on the counter right there, or you can drop them in your water if you fancy. Maybe go ahead and start cleaning them out a little bit. I got some white paint on me, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just wipe it right on my shirt, because that's how I roll when I paint. Nobody judges me in my paint shirt. Alrighty. So this next step is where the magic's going to happen. Here you're going to want to get your biggest paintbrush with as many bristles on it as you can. Because this technique won't work as much with smaller paintbrushes because you won't have as many bristles in there. So you want as many bristles as you can get. Now I've got a little bit of white paint left here, but I'm going to just refill my pile. Take that bad boy. Just squeeze a little out. Sounds like he had some Taco Bell for lunch. There we go. So now we're going to take our big paintbrush. We're going to dab them just the ends in that white paint right there. Just like that, maybe a little bit more. There we go. And this is the fun part. This is where you get a little messy. You're going to take your finger and you're just going to drag it right along the end like that. Just like that. We're just going to flick some little spots around. Just like so. Wow. Isn't that cool? Now I got some little streaks in there. There's no big deal to that. The goal I'm going for right here is a nice fancy galaxy far, far away where we've never seen before. And you see if you get up a little closer there, you get those tightly grouped little spots. Looks like a little galaxy off there. And if you come a little farther away, they're spread out a little bit more. But we're just going to do this all around the canvas. Show it all some nice love. When you start running out of paint, when your paintbrush is giving up, we're just going to go get some more paint. Load them back up. Say, you're not done yet, Mr. Paintbrush. No. Just going to keep flicking. Adding that nice starry galaxy back there. Almost done. Put a little bit more here in the middle. Alrighty. I think that looks pretty good. What about you? You think it looks good? Me too. So now I'm going to take my finger covered in white paint, and just like earlier, just going to wipe it on my paint shirt because I really don't care. Now this guy, I'm going to go ahead and put him in some water, clean him up because I'm going to need his help here in just a minute. Go ahead and get me some more paper towel. Now I'm running a little low, so I'm going to scrape some of that water out in this bucket so that I don't have as much loading up in this paper towel. Just like that. We're going to dry him out. That's better. And if he's not completely dry, no worries. No big deal. Now I noticed a little spot in here that I missed earlier, that this sponge, so I'm just going to come back through here and add a little cloud there, just like that. You don't have to do the same. That's just my personal preference that I missed right there. So now we're going to take this guy. Still a little wet. I might dry him off just a little bit more. Ooh. Now we're out of paper towels. Here in a little bit we're going to have to get creative. Let's get him nice and dry. Just like earlier. Throw that bad boy right on the ground. I forgot to throw this guy on the ground. He thought he was getting away lucky. Nope, on the ground. So now we're going to take this paintbrush, big or small. You know, I've got a paintbrush this size. I've got a paintbrush this size. If you're using a smaller canvas, this might be your tool of choice. If you're using a bigger canvas, this might be your tool of choice. Whatever floats your boat. I'm going to go with the big guy, though, just because we've been friends already. He's helped me out a little bit. So here I'm going to load up my paintbrush with some black paint. I'm running a little low. I might have to refill here in a minute. So what we're going to do, right about where you imagined that imaginary line earlier, we're just going to come across the middle here and just paint a nice line. Doesn't have to be straight. It can be a little curvy, a little fancy. No big deal. Just like that. You can come in from the other side. Just like that. And come all the way across. There we go. I'm going to dry him off just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and give myself some more black paint because I know I'm going to be needing it here in a few steps. So now we're going to take this big paintbrush here. We're going to load them up. We're going to come over here. We're just going to put some mountains in here. So we're going to start off pretty big right there. Let's imagine a mountain right there. Nice swooping slope. And just like earlier with our cloudy effect, we're going to mirror that right down here. Doesn't have to be exactly the same. You can fix them however you want. And then we're going to close in the gap with our black paint there, so there's no space in our mountain. As much fun as Space Mountain is, he has no place in this paint. We're just going to kind of go with the edge, make a little bit of a flow there, just like that. So now we're going to get some more paint. Let's put a little guy right about there. Little friend for our big mountain. Because everybody needs a friend. And just like that, we're going to fill him in. And then we're going to mirror him right down here. Make sure to close off those edges right there. Just like that. Some of that white paint from behind got mixed in with our black paint, so I'm going to go back over, darken it up just a little bit, because we want some black mountains. Just like so. Now here, let's throw in a little guy, just a little bump in the mountain range, just like that. I like him. Do you like him? I do too. We're going to get a little bit more black paint. Come back in here. Let's go just a little bit bigger than the second mountain, but not quite as big as the first. Just like that. There we go. Fill in our gap. Just like that. Now our painting is starting to finally come together. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to wet our paintbrush, get that black paint out. I'm going to wring them out out just a little bit on the edge of this paint bucket. Get as much water out as I can. And I'm going to use just this last little bit of paper towel here. Try and get as much water out as I can. Maybe even stick them in the paper towel roll and wring them around. See if that does any good. May do some good, may not. Looks pretty good to me. There's still a little bit of paint in there, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to recycle one of our friends from down here that we disgraced earlier and threw on the ground. And looky there, he's still got some good left in him. Going to dry that paintbrush out nice and dry. Get as much black paint out as we can. Back on the ground. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take just a little bit of black paint on the edge there. We're going to put it in the middle of our paper plate, paper towel, whatever you prefer. And we're going to mix a little bit of white in with it so that we get a nice light gray color. There we go, that's starting to come together nicely. So we're going to load our paintbrush up with that. Now we're going to imagine some mountain peaks here. We're going to imagine the mountain ranges coming down the side. So we're going to put a little line right about there. Just an imaginary, temporary line right there. And we're going to take our paintbrush and stroke it right down the mountain like that. Just like that. I'm going to bring this guy over just a little bit. How about like that? I think that looks pretty good. Just like earlier, we're going to mirror that technique here on the bottom. This part can be a little challenging, so if you're able to, you could even flip your canvas right upside down, and that way there's no trouble here. We're just going to mirror that right there, just like that. Turn your head upside down, see how it looks that way. If it looks similar, then you're good, but mine does not look quite the same, so I'm going to adjust him just a little bit, like so. Doesn't have to be exact. Now we're going to do that same trick on the rest of our mountains. This guy's a little smaller, so we're going to not use as much paint here. Just bring it right down the side. Same thing on the bottom. Just like that. And if you run out of that color that you made, you can make some more. Might be a little bit of a different shade of gray, but that's okay because no mountains are the same. You look out on a mountain range, it's not always similar, so we're just adding to that effect. I'm going to come in here, do the same thing, just like that. Give me a little bit more white. And this mountain may be a little more straight up and down like that. Now we're going to come down here, mirror it. Just like that. Now this next part we're going to make it a little bit of a darker gray. Same process, a little bit of white, a little more black than usual. And we're going to do the opposite thing on the other side of the mountain. So just light brush strokes right down the side, just like that. Just like that. Do the same thing here. me a little bit more paint on our little friend right here. And then last but not least, we can't leave this guy out. Just like that. So I'm going to put my paintbrush in the water just a little bit. Let him cool off in there. Now we're almost done. So now, if you've got one more paintbrush, we're going to get a flat paintbrush that's as flat as possible, not all frayed out and funny looking, but just a nice flat paintbrush. This one's a little flatter than the other one. But this guy's just a little bit bigger, so I think I'm going to go with him. Get just a little bit more white paint. His tummy's still not feeling too good. I'm going to load this paintbrush up. I'm going to just flatten it out just a little bit. If you stroke your paintbrush on the paper plate, it'll thin it out to a nice point right there, just like that. And then I'm going to get just a little bit more white paint there. And that same imaginary line we saw before, we're just going to come right across it with this paintbrush. Doesn't have to be straight. It could be a little thicker in some places, a little thinner. I'm just going to finish that line off. Just like that. Get a little bit more white paint. And this is creating the effect that it's a mountain range on a lake and a starry sky. So to help with that effect, we're going to go up close to the line and we're just going to make some smaller little lines right along the edge right there. You can just touch the paintbrush to the canvas like that. You can do a little side swipe like so. This part, you don't want a ton of paint on your paintbrush, just enough to make the effect. You can space it out a little bit, bring some over here, just like that. Just a little more paint, and then you come out a little bit. And then you make a little bit longer line, like so. Doesn't have to be in the exact same spot as our shorter lines. Just like that. Come out a little bit farther. Let's do a big line right there. A little bit of a ripple in the water. Uh-oh. Looks like we picked up some black paint on accident. No problem, we'll just come back with some white, cover it up. Brand new. Some little ripples in there. Do a big ripple right there. Put a little guy right there. Like that. Just like that. You can add some little accents to your big waves. Create the effect of multiple ripples in the lake. And on some of these spots where you got a little bit of extra white paint, you can just grab it and pull it to the side like that. And it'll help with that water effect. Just like that. Alrighty, we're just about done. We can add a few little accents here just for fun that only we know about. So what you're going to do, you're going to take the end of your paintbrush, the hard end, not the bristle end. You're going to dip it in some white paint there. Load it up nicely. And let's put a star right there. Remember to mirror him. Got a little friend down there in the lake. Let's put a few more. How about a little guy peeking over the mountain right there? That's fun. Now you can take even a little smaller paintbrush if you like smaller stars. Do the same thing. Add a little guy right there, just like that. Now we've got our own little secret hidden in our painting. All right, friends, well now we're done. Now you've got a pretty paint to hang in your living room for your mama or May make a nice gift for grandmama or grandpapa. Anything you like. You can even put it in your room. You can use it as firewood if you like, if you're not too happy with it. But I think we did pretty good here today, and I'm sure that you did just as well at home with your own paintbrushes and with your own paint. So that's it for this episode of John's Acrylic Moment. I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.